Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well. In today's video, we're going to talk about the Indus Valley Civilization, one of the world's earliest and most advanced ancient civilizations. The Indus Valley Civilization, the civilization we still can't read. A world history story by the perfect professor. Thousands of years ago, a civilization flourished with planned cities, advanced drainage systems, standardized bricks, and long-distance trade. It built no grand palaces. It left behind no glorified kings. It carved no clear record of its rulers or wars. And yet, it was one of the most advanced civilizations the ancient world had ever seen. Today, we call it the Indus Valley Civilization. We can see its cities. We can measure its technology. We can trace its influence. But we cannot read its language. This is the story of a civilization that spoke clearly through stone and structure, but whose voice remains silent to us even now. Part 1. A civilization without a name. History usually introduces civilizations through their voices, through kings who boasted, through inscriptions that commanded, through wars that announced power. But this civilization begins in silence. What we call the Indus Valley Civilization left behind cities, technology, and structure, yet no readable words to explain itself. It existed. It flourished, and then it faded, without telling us who it was. Discovered by accident, not memory. For thousands of years, the Indus Valley Civilization lay buried beneath soil and time. Unlike Egypt or Mesopotamia, it survived not in stories, not in scripture, not in legend. It survived only as brick. In the early 20th century, British engineers working on railway construction in the Indian subcontinent began pulling ancient bricks from the ground. Bricks that were unusually uniform, unusually well-fired, and clearly not medieval or recent. Archaeologists followed. What they uncovered shocked the world. Entire cities, planned cities, cities older than many civilizations already known. An ancient giant revealed. As excavations expanded, two names emerged repeatedly: Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. These were not villages. They were urban centers. Wide streets laid out in grids, multi-story brick houses, public baths, drainage systems more advanced than many modern cities until the 19th century. This was not primitive life. This was organized civilization, and it dated back more than 4,000 years. A civilization larger than we expected. As more sites were discovered, the scale became undeniable. The Indus Valley Civilization covered a region far larger than ancient Egypt or early Mesopotamia, stretching across what is today Pakistan, northwest India, and parts of Afghanistan. Hundreds of settlements, millions of inhabitants, and yet no grand monuments to kings.
No towering pyramids, no massive palaces.
This absence was not accidental. It was structural. A civilization without a known name. Perhaps the most unsettling truth is this. We do not know what the Indus Valley people called themselves. Indus Valley Civilization is a modern label, named after the river near which some ruins were found. But civilizations usually name themselves. They leave records. They carve identities into stone. The Indus people did not. Or if they did, we cannot read it. Their script, short, symbolic, engraved on seals, has never been deciphered. And because of that, their voice remains locked away. What silence tells us. This silence forces historians into an uncomfortable position. We cannot read laws. We cannot read prayers. We cannot read royal commands. Instead, we must interpret behavior through structure. And structure speaks volumes. Cities built with order suggest cooperation. Uniform bricks suggest standardization. Advanced sanitation suggests concern for public health. These people planned for collective life, not personal glorification. That alone sets them apart from most ancient civilizations.
No kings, no glory.
No obsession with power. One of the most striking features of the Indus Valley Civilization is what it lacks. There are no obvious palaces.
No massive tombs, no monuments celebrating rulers.
This does not mean there were no leaders. It means leadership was not advertised. Power was not monumentalized. In a world obsessed with dominance, the Indus Valley chose balance. and that choice makes it difficult for history to categorize them. Why this civilization challenges history itself. History prefers noise. It remembers conquerors. It remembers destruction. It remembers collapse. The Indus Valley Civilization challenges this bias. It was advanced without arrogance, urban without excess, organized without visible tyranny. And when it declined, it did not collapse violently. It faded. History struggles to remember quiet civilizations. That is why this one feels mysterious. Professor's reflection. The problem of silence. The Indus Valley Civilization teaches us something unsettling. Civilizations can be successful without being loud. Power can exist without spectacle. And influence does not always announce itself. History is not only written by victors. It is written by those who leave readable records. And the Indus Valley did not. Part 2. Cities before their time. When historians first uncovered the cities of the Indus Valley Civilization, disbelief followed excitement. Because these cities did not look ancient, they looked planned, not improvised, not accidental.
Planned.
And that single fact changed everything we thought we knew about early civilization. Urban planning before urban theory. Most ancient cities grew organically. Paths became roads. Settlements expanded unevenly. Chaos shaped structure. Indus Valley cities did the opposite. They were designed. Wide main streets intersected at right angles. Smaller lanes branched off methodically. Residential areas were clearly separated from industrial zones. This was not accidental growth. It was deliberate urban engineering. Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. Two cities became symbols of this civilization's brilliance. Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. Both followed remarkably similar layouts, despite being hundreds of kilometers apart. This consistency tells us something crucial. These cities were built according to shared standards. Someone planned them. Someone enforced them. But no one claimed credit. Standardized bricks, standardized thinking. Across Indus sites, bricks follow nearly identical proportions. This level of standardization is rare even in later civilizations. It implies central regulation, skilled craftsmanship, cultural agreement. Standardization means cooperation. It suggests a society that valued uniformity not for control, but for efficiency. The drainage system that shames the future. Perhaps the most astonishing feature of Indus cities lies beneath the streets. Drainage. Almost every house had access to covered drains. Wastewater flowed through carefully constructed channels, often lined with brick and sealed. This was not luxury. It was basic infrastructure. In many parts of the world, comparable sanitation would not appear again for thousands of years. The Indus people understood something fundamental. A city is only as healthy as what it removes, not what it displays. Private homes, public responsibility. Houses varied in size, but not in dignity. Even modest homes had wells, bathrooms, and drainage access. There was no extreme architectural inequality. No sprawling palaces towering over slums. This suggests a society where wealth differences existed, but did not dominate urban design. Comfort was shared. The Great Bath, power without display. At Mohenjo-daro stands a structure unlike anything else, the Great Bath. A large, carefully waterproofed pool surrounded by steps and rooms. It was not decorative. It was not recreational. Most scholars believe it served ritual or communal purposes. And yet, no statues of gods. No inscriptions of rulers. The space invited participation, not submission. Cities without fortified arrogance. Unlike many ancient cities, Indus settlements lacked massive defensive walls. This does not mean they were naive. It suggests a society that did not expect constant warfare. Urban planning reflects priorities. The Indus Valley prioritized
Health,
order,
trade, stability.
not domination. What these cities reveal about values. Architecture is ideology made visible. From Indus cities, we learn that collective welfare mattered. Authority was subtle. Power avoided spectacle. This civilization did not scream its greatness. It built it quietly, And that quietness is precisely why history struggled to notice it. Professor's reflection: when cities speak louder than kings. The Indus Valley Civilization left us no readable words, but its cities speak fluently. They tell us of a society that valued planning over chaos, health over excess, and community over glorification. Perhaps the most radical idea in ancient history is not conquest. It is restraint. Part 3: A Society Without Kings. History usually announces power loudly, through palaces that dominate skylines, through tombs meant to outlast time, through monuments carved to glorify rulers. The Indus Valley Civilization did none of this, and that absence may be its most radical feature: the missing symbols of authority. Archaeologists searching into cities expected familiar signs of hierarchy. They found none. No royal palaces towering above neighborhoods. No massive tombs filled with treasure. No statues of kings claiming divine right. This silence is not accidental. Across hundreds of sites, the pattern repeats. If kings ruled the Indus Valley, they did so without advertising themselves. Power without spectacle. This forces historians to confront an uncomfortable possibility. What if power existed, but was deliberately understated? Leadership does not always require spectacle. Authority does not always need intimidation. The Indus Valley may have been governed by councils, administrators, or religious authorities whose influence was embedded in systems rather than symbols. Order came from structure, not fear. Equality in urban design. One of the strongest arguments against extreme hierarchy lies in the cities themselves. Houses varied in size, but not dramatically. Access to water and sanitation was widespread. Neighborhoods followed similar layouts. There is no clear architectural divide between elite and commoner. This does not imply complete equality. It implies controlled inequality, a society where differences existed but did not dominate daily life. Seals instead of thrones. Instead of crowns or scepters, the Indus Valley left behind seals. Small, carved objects bearing symbols and animal figures. They were likely used for trade, identification, or administration. This suggests authority expressed through function, not display. Control flowed through systems, not personalities. Religion without monumental gods. Religion almost certainly played a role in Indus society, but once again it avoided excess. There are no massive temples, no dominating statues of gods demanding obedience. Religious life appears integrated into daily routine rather than imposed from above. Belief without intimidation. Why history struggles with this model? Most historical frameworks assume a pattern. Civilization kings, expansion, collapse. The Indus Valley disrupts this narrative. It presents a civilization that was urban without monarchs, organized without visible coercion, advanced without glorifying domination. This makes it difficult to compare and easy to overlook. The cost of being quiet. Civilizations that shout are remembered. Those that whisper are studied. The Indus Valley left behind no royal propaganda, no heroic epics, no conquest narratives. So history cannot easily dramatize it. But significance does not depend on drama. Sometimes, the most sophisticated systems are the least theatrical. Professor's reflection. Rethinking power. The Indus Valley Civilization invites us to rethink authority itself. It suggests that power can be stable without being visible, that leadership can function without personal glorification, that civilization does not require obsession with dominance. In a world that remembers conquerors, the Indus Valley reminds us, order can exist without spectacle. Part 4: Trade, Economy, and Daily Life. Civilizations are not sustained by monuments. They are sustained by routine, by food production, trade, labor, and the quiet repetition of daily life. And in this realm, the Indus Valley Civilization reveals a sophistication that rivals, and in some ways surpasses, its contemporaries. An economy built on order. The Indus economy was not chaotic. It was measured. Across Indus sites, archaeologists have found standardized weights and measures, carefully shaped stones used to weigh goods. This suggests regulated trade. Fair exchange. Economic coordination across vast distances. Standardization is not a minor detail. It is evidence of trust. Trade beyond borders. The Indus Valley did not exist in isolation. Artifacts reveal long-distance trade connections with Mesopotamia and other regions. Indus seals have been found far from the river valleys where they were made. Mesopotamian texts reference a distant trading land, likely the Indus region, known for precious goods. Exports likely included beads made of carnelian, cotton textiles, pottery, and crafted tools. Imports may have included metals and luxury items. Trade connected worlds, and the Indus Valley was part of that network. Craftsmanship over excess. Indus artisans were skilled, but restrained. They produced intricately drilled beads, fine pottery with simple geometric designs, carefully carved seals. There's beauty, but not extravagance.
No gold-laden tombs.
No overwhelming displays of wealth. This suggests a culture that valued function and refinement over accumulation. Food, farming, and stability. Agriculture formed the backbone of Indus life. Farmers cultivated wheat, barley, legumes, and possibly rice. Irrigation systems managed seasonal floods and water supply. Food production appears stable and diverse. This stability allowed cities to grow without constant fear of famine, a rarity in the ancient world. Clothing and materials. The Indus Valley is among the earliest known producers of cotton textiles. This detail matters. Cotton is not easy to process. Its use implies technological knowledge and comfort-oriented design. Clothing was practical, breathable, and suitable for climate, not ceremonial excess. Again, utility over display. Daily life without drama. Perhaps the most striking aspect of Indus daily life is how unremarkable it seems. People lived in clean cities. They worked skilled trades. They participated in regulated markets. There is no archaeological evidence of widespread violence or militarization. Life appears orderly, predictable, and by ancient standards, remarkably safe. Why this matters historically. Civilizations are often judged by how loudly they expand. The Indus Valley challenges that metric. It expanded influence through trade, not conquest, through reliability, not fear, through systems, not spectacle. This made it prosperous. It also made it historically quiet. Professor's reflection, the power of the ordinary. The Indus Valley Civilization reminds us that history is not only shaped by wars and rulers. It is shaped by people waking up, working, trading, building, and returning home, day after day. That rhythm, sustained over centuries, is civilization, and the Indus Valley mastered it. Part 5. The script we cannot read. Civilizations usually explain themselves. They carve laws into stone. They praise gods in inscriptions. They record victories for posterity. The Indus Valley Civilization did something extraordinary. It wrote, but left nothing we can read. The seals that refuse to speak. Across Indus sites, archaeologists have discovered thousands of small seals. They are carefully carved, standardized, and widespread. Each seal typically contains a short line of symbols, an animal figure, often a bull, unicorn-like creature, or elephant. The symbols are consistent. They are repeated. They are deliberate. This is not decoration. It is writing. And yet, no one has successfully deciphered it. A script unlike others. The Indus script presents a unique problem. Unlike Egyptian hieroglyphs or Mesopotamian cuneiform, it is extremely short, usually 4 to 6 symbols, found mostly on seals, not long texts.
Lacking bilingual inscription.
There is no Indus Rosetta Stone. No translation guide. No parallel text. Without that, decipherment becomes nearly impossible. Why decipherment failed? Many scholars have tried. Some proposed connections to early Dravidian languages. Others suggested links to Indo-European tongues. Some even questioned whether it was full writing at all. But none of these theories achieved consensus. The problem is not intelligence. It is evidence. Without longer texts or known reference points, interpretation collapses into speculation. History demands proof, and the Indus Valley offers none. What this silence costs us, because we cannot read the Indus script, we are missing political structure, religious beliefs, legal systems, names of leaders or cities, their own explanation of decline. This is not a small gap. It is a missing voice. We can measure bricks. We can map streets. We can analyze trade goods, but we cannot hear their thoughts. The danger of projection. When history cannot hear a civilization speak, it risks speaking for it. Modern observers project assumptions. That power must have been centralized. That religion must have dominated. That hierarchy must have existed. But these assumptions come from other civilizations, not this one. The Indus Valley forces humility. It reminds historians that absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. A civilization defined by restraint. Perhaps the most unsettling idea is this. What if the Indus people did not record what we expect because they did not value what we prioritize? What if kingship was secondary? What if conquest was unimportant? What if continuity mattered more than legacy? Their script may have served practical needs, trade, ownership, identification, rather than ideology. A civilization focused on function, not proclamation. Why this makes the Indus Valley unique. Most ancient civilizations survive through words. The Indus Valley survives through structure, through sanitation systems, through urban planning, through standardized tools. It is a civilization remembered not by what it said, but by what it built. And that may be its most honest legacy. Professor's reflection: when history cannot translate wisdom, the inability to read the Indus script is not a failure of archaeology. It is a reminder of history's limits. Not all knowledge survives in words. Not all civilizations speak loudly. Some express themselves through balance, order, and restraint. And when their language disappears, we are left to listen carefully to what remains. Part 6: The Disappearance. Civilizations usually end with noise, with invasion, with collapse, with fire and conquest. The Indus Valley Civilization ended differently. It did not fall. It faded. No evidence of violent destruction. For decades, historians searched for signs of invasion. Burned cities, mass graves, weapons scattered in streets. They found none. There is no archaeological evidence of large-scale warfare or violent conquest at the end of the Indus Valley Civilization.
No destroyed capitals. No slaughtered populations.
The cities were not overthrown. They were abandoned. The rivers that built and broke civilization. The Indus Valley depended on rivers. Not only the Indus itself, but a network of seasonal rivers that supported agriculture and trade. Over centuries, these rivers changed course. Some dried up. Others flooded unpredictably. Modern climate studies suggest long-term shifts in monsoon patterns, leading to reduced water reliability. For a civilization built on careful planning, water instability was devastating. Climate, not conquest. As water systems failed, agriculture suffered. Food production declined. Trade networks weakened. Cities became harder to sustain. People did not flee in panic. They migrated gradually. Settlements shrank. Urban centers emptied. Communities dispersed into smaller villages better suited to changing conditions. This was not collapse. It was adaptation. Why the cities were left behind. Large cities require surplus. Surplus requires stability. When environmental predictability vanished, maintaining vast urban systems no longer made sense. So people chose survival over symbolism. They left behind brick cities not because they were defeated, but because they were no longer practical. A civilization that refused to die loudly. Unlike Rome or Mesopotamia, the Indus Valley did not cling to failing systems. It did not exhaust itself defending monuments.
It changed.
Its people carried knowledge forward. Agricultural practices,
Craft traditions. Settlement patterns.
the civilization dissolved into culture, not into ruins. Why history struggles with this ending? History prefers drama. It remembers collapse, not withdrawal. It celebrates conquest, not restraint. The Indus Valley Civilization does not fit the script. There is no villain, no final battle, no moment of heroic resistance, just a quiet decision to move on. Lessons from a silent civilization. The Indus Valley teaches us something profoundly modern. Sustainability matters more than dominance. Adaptation matters more than pride. Survival sometimes means letting go. In a world facing environmental uncertainty, this lesson feels uncomfortably relevant. Final reflection. Listening to what cannot speak. We cannot read their words, but we can read their choices. They chose sanitation over spectacle. They chose trade over conquest. They chose adaptation over collapse. In doing so, they challenge our definition of civilization itself. Closing words from the perfect professor. History is not only written by those who shout, it is shaped by those who build quietly and know when to leave. The Indus Valley Civilization may be unreadable, but it is not unknowable. Its legacy lives in planning, balance, and restraint. Lessons from the past. Stories for the present. That's all for today's video on the Indus Valley Civilization. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.